Reiner murders. What drove Nick Reiner to kill? Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. On the 14th of December 2025, acclaimed Hollywood director Rob Reiner and his wife, Michele Reiner, were stabbed to death in their Brentwood home in Los Angeles. Rob Reiner, aged 78 at the time of his death, was a legendary filmmaker known for classics like This Is Spinal Tap, Stand By Me, The Princess Bride, and When Harry Met Sally and A Few Good Men, as well as his acting roles in shows like All in the Family. Michele Reiner, aged 68, was a filmmaker and photographer who met Rob on the set of When Harry Met Sally and married him in 1989. The couple had been together for over 35 years and were described by friends and family as deeply loving and supportive. Their 32-year-old son, Nick Reiner, has been arrested and charged with their murders, turning what authorities describe as a heart-wrenching family tragedy into a high-profile case that has captivated the media and public. Rob and Michele Reiner shared 3 children: Jake, born in 1991, Nick, born in 1993, and Romy, born in 1997. Rob also had a daughter, Tracy Reiner, from his previous marriage to actress and director Penny Marshall. The family was often portrayed as close-knit, with Rob frequently collaborating professionally with his children. Notably, Nick co-wrote the 2016 semi-autobiographical film, Being Charlie, with his father, which chronicled a young man's battle with drug addiction, a theme drawn from Nick's own struggles. Nick had openly discussed his long-term issues with substance abuse, including cocaine and heroin use, starting in his early teens, leading to multiple rehab stints beginning around the age of 15, periods of homelessness, and ongoing family support. Despite these challenges, sources close to the family emphasized that Rob and Michele were devoted parents who had helped Nick through his difficulties, and there were no recent signs of violence or severe conflict. Friends described Michele as funny, acerbic, and kind, while Rob was hailed as a master storyteller and a humanitarian by peers like Billy Crystal and Larry David. On Saturday, December the 13th, in the evening, Rob, Michele, and Nick attended a holiday party hosted by comedian Conan O'Brien in Los Angeles. Witnesses reported Nick's behaviour as erratic and alarming, with him allegedly freaking everyone out. Rob reportedly rebuked his son for inappropriate conduct in someone else's home, though sources close to the family downplayed it as a minor incident rather than a heated argument. This was the last public sighting of the family together. After the party, Nick's movements are under investigation, but he reportedly checked into the Pierside Santa Monica Hotel at some point that day or early the next. On Sunday, December the 14th in the afternoon, a massage therapist arrived at the Reiners' gated Brentwood home for a scheduled appointment, but received no response at the intercom. The therapist contacted the couple's daughter, Romy Reiner, who lived nearby. Romy arrived with a roommate, entered the room, and proceeded to the master bedroom where she discovered her father's body. In a state of panic, she ran outside screaming, and her roommate called 911. Romy then re-entered the house to search for her mother and was informed by arriving paramedics that both parents were deceased. The Los Angeles Fire Department and LAPD responded around 3:30 to 3:40 p.m. to what was initially reported as a medical aid call. Officers secured the scene, searched the property, including a possible guest house where Nick may have stayed, and confirmed no other victims or suspects were present. The home, described as a secure estate with gates, hedges and surveillance cameras, showed signs of a violent struggle in the master bedroom area. On the evening of Sunday, December the 14th, surveillance footage captured Nick Reiner at an Arco gas station in Exposition Park around 8:20 p.m, about 15 miles from the family home, where he appeared fidgety while purchasing a blue Gatorade sports drink. He was arrested without incident nearby around 9:30 p.m. Investigators quickly identified him as a person of interest based on early evidence from the scene and family interviews. Autopsies conducted by the Los Angeles County Medical Examiner's Office confirmed that both Rob and Michele died from multiple sharp force injuries consistent with stabbing wounds sustained on Sunday, December the 14th. The attack occurred in the master bedroom of their home, described as gruesome by sources. No murder weapon has been publicly disclosed as recovered, though prosecutors allege a knife was used. The scene was secured immediately, with neighbours later leaving flowers and candles outside the gates in tribute. Authorities have not released specifics on the number of wounds or defensive injuries, but the nature of the killings has been characterised as intimate and brutal, typical of intra-family violence. Nick Reiner was formally charged on Tuesday, December the 16th with 2 counts of first-degree murder. The charges include special circumstances for committing multiple murders and a special allegation for using a deadly weapon, a knife, which could result in the death penalty or life imprisonment without parole if convicted. Additionally, under California's Slayer statute, Nick may be barred from inheriting any portion of his parents' estate. He is being held without bail. On Wednesday, December the 17th, Nick made his first court appearance in Los Angeles Superior Court, wearing a suicide prevention smock and seated behind plexiglass. The brief hearing, lasting about 5 minutes, did not include a plea. His attorney, Alan Jackson, known for defending high-profile clients like Kevin Spacey, requested and was granted a delay of the arraignment until January 7, 2026, citing the need to review complex evidence. Nick waived his right to a speedy arraignment and spoke only 3 words, "Yes, Your Honour." Jackson urged the public not to rush to judgment outside the courtroom. Prosecutors Habib Balian and Jonathan Chung, experienced in homicide cases, are handling the case for the Los Angeles District Attorney Office, led by Nathan J. Hockman, who noted the emotional difficulty of prosecuting family murders and said the office would consult the surviving family on pursuing the death penalty. No definitive motive has been publicly disclosed by authorities, and sources close to the family insist there were no obvious warning signs of violence in recent weeks. However, Nick's well-documented history of drug addiction has been highlighted as a potential contributing factor, though not directly linked to the crime. Investigators are focusing on tracing Nick's movements between the party and his arrest, including his hotel stay, where reports suggest the room was full of blood, though this has not been officially confirmed, and any evidence from surveillance footage. The LAPD, under Chief Jim McDonnell, has described the investigation as active, with Assistant Chief Dominic Choi noting that Nick Reiner became a suspect within hours based on initial leads. The case is being treated as a domestic homicide, with no indication of outside involvement. That provides you with the detailed background into what is understood to have happened so far. But the immediate question arises, in respect of the finger of blame being pointed at Nick Reiner, is what has driven him to murder both parents? Parricide, the act of killing one's parent or parents, is a rare but profoundly disturbing form of homicide. It encompasses patricide, killing one's father, matricide, killing one's mother, or double parricide, killing both parents. While parricide accounts for only 2 to 4% of all homicides worldwide, it draws significant attention due to its violation of deep-seated cultural norms around family bonds and filial duty. This phenomenon is distinct from filicide, parents killing children, and is more common among adult offspring than juveniles, with offenders often in their 20s to 50s. Adult parricide, involving offenders aged 18 and older, is heavily influenced by a mix of psychological, social, and situational factors, rather than a single cause. Research identifies patterns such as severe mental illness, histories of abuse, antisocial traits, and enmeshed family dynamics as key drivers. Below, I'm going to consider a number of potential explanations, drawing on empirical studies, motivating factors, psychological conditions, and real-world examples to consider what was the motivating factor or factors that drove Nick Reiner to behave as it is alleged that he has in killing both his parents. Studies on parricide distinguish between juvenile and adult offenders, with adults more likely to be driven by severe psychopathology rather than immediate abuse. Offenders have been categorized initially into 4 main types. First of all, severely abused offenders. These individuals kill the parent or parents to end prolonged physical, sexual, emotional, or psychological abuse. In adults, this may manifest as delayed revenge or escape from ongoing control, often after years of dependency. Abuse history is less common in adult cases, around 7 to 15%, compared to juveniles, but when present, it can lead to cumulative trauma, fostering resentment or post-traumatic stress. Motivations include self-preservation or breaking free from enmeshed dysfunctional relationships. 2. Severely mentally ill offenders. This is the most prevalent type among adults, accounting for 67 to 79% of cases in various studies. Offenders often suffer from untreated or poorly managed conditions like schizophrenia, leading to delusions, for instance, believing parents are poisoning them, or hallucinations that command violence. In England and Wales, 74% of parricides involve mental illness, with 79% deemed legally causative, for example, via diminished responsibility defences. Parental proximity, living with or being cared for by parents, exacerbates the risk as family members become nearby targets during psychotic episodes. 3. Dangerously antisocial offenders. These adults exhibit personality disorders, such as antisocial personality disorder or narcissism, viewing parents as obstacles to personal gain. In other words, threats to control. Motivations are often instrumental, for example, nullifying a threat to control and obtaining a residual benefit, such as inheritance, or eliminating financial control over the child. Substance abuse, e.g. alcohol or drugs in 24 to 31% of cases, often amplifies impulsivity. Unlike mentally ill offenders, these individuals will lack genuine remorse and, in some instances, will plan the act. 4. Enraged or explosive offenders. Less common but seen in adults, this involves sudden intense rage triggered by arguments, perceived slights, or accumulated frustrations. It often overlaps with other types, such as when mental illness or abuse history fuels an impulsive act, or it might be as a consequence of the heated ignited fury of a narcissist responding to a particular threat to control. Accordingly, those are the 4 main groups with regard to those that commit adult parricide. Demographically, adult parricide offenders are predominantly male, white, middle class, unemployed, or financially dependent, and without prior violent convictions. Gender differences are stark. Sons commit 93% of cases, often killing both parents equally, while daughters, far rarer, primarily target mothers, 61%. Matricides involve older offenders, the mean age is 38, and victims, mean age 69, linked often to caregiving burdens on mothers under patriarchal norms. Weapons are typically opportunistic, sharp instruments in 49 to 62% of cases, especially matricides. Broader societal factors can also include the reduction of mental health services, forcing families, often mothers, into caregiving roles, increasing parental proximity risks. Domestic disputes, 40%, and intoxication, 31%, are common precipitants. But underlying issues like marginalisation, for instance ignored carer concerns, play a role. Some motivating factors are, and they're often rarely singular, but often stem from intertwined personal and relational dynamics, such as financial gain or independence. Adults dependent on parents may kill for inheritance, insurance, or to escape control. This is common in antisocial types, where greed overrides bonds. Revenge or escape from abuse. Lingering trauma from childhood abuse can erupt in adulthood, especially if parents continue manipulative behaviours. Delusional or psychotic beliefs. In mentally ill cases, paranoia, for instance, my parents are persecuting me, drives acts often altruistic in intent, for instance, a mercy killing, which occurs in 24% of adult cases. Family conflict and dependency, enmeshed relationships where adult children live with parents, common in 95% of cases. This leads to explosive arguments over money, autonomy, or care responsibilities. Substance abuse and impulsivity, drugs or alcohol lower inhibitions and exacerbate underlying issues. External stresses, divorce, job loss, health declines can trigger acts with a reduction in emotional empathy, particularly in depressed or enraged offenders. There have been many notable instances of adult parricide. Lizzie Borden, for example. Back in 1892, she was accused but acquitted of axing her father and stepmother in Massachusetts. Motivations were tied to inheritance disputes and family tensions, psychological factors including possible resentment from a controlling household, though no formal diagnosis took place. She would most likely be viewed as an enraged or antisocial type. Eric and Lyle Menendez, 1989, ages 18 and 21. They shot their wealthy parents in California, claiming fear from years of physical and sexual abuse. Convicted of murder, they represent the severely abused type, with motivations of escape and self-preservation. Psychological evaluations have revealed PTSD, although there are suggestions of personality disorder also. Dana Ewell, in 1992, age 21. She hired hitmen to kill parents and sister for a multi-million-dollar inheritance. Driven by greed and antisocial traits with no mental illness noted, exemplifies instrumental motivations in dangerously antisocial offenders. Joel Michael Guy Jr., age 28, stabbed and dismembered his parents during a Thanksgiving visit, motivated by financial gain, inheritance, and rage over their decision to cut support. Psychological factors included possible antisocial personality disorder and impulsivity. With Nick Reiner, he has a history of drug addiction, cocaine and heroin, starting in his teens. Motivations at this juncture are unclear, but it might be linked to his erratic behaviour at a party beforehand. It might be the case that there is substance use disorder, possibly untreated mental health issues. There may be issues of dependency or impulsivity. Alternatively, it might be the case that one is dealing with a disordered individual. At this juncture, insufficient evidence exists to give a definitive view as to what has caused Nick Reiner to engage in the behaviour that he has, where he is accused of killing both his parents and engaging in the act of parricide. I have set out for you some notable examples of it taking place, and also some of the factors that could cause it to happen and the personality types that are involved in this type of behaviour. I've done so in order to cause you to consider what might be occurring in this instance as you start to hear more and more about the evidence. Naturally, at this juncture, it's too early to make a determination, but it is useful to consider what those factors and underlying personality traits might be. And as more evidence becomes available, we will revisit the situation of Nick Reiner, ultimately to make a determination as to what he is and what drove him to allegedly kill both his parents. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.